Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're stepping into something really quite unique, a truly singular event, the Papal Conclave. With Pope Francis's passing, the assembly is set for May 7th, 2025. It's a moment that grabs the whole world's attention, really.
It absolutely does. And while, the main news outlets will cover the big moments, the smoke signals, the announcement from the balcony.
Right, the drama.
Exactly. But we want to go much deeper than that. We've got this really detailed source, nearly 3,000 words, that unpacks, pretty much everything.
Everything.
From the theology behind it, the actual rules, who does what, the logistics, the rituals, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
And the name itself, conclave, it actually comes from Latin with key. That tells you a lot about the secrecy, the locked-in nature of it all. That's what we want to unlock for you.
With key. Okay. So it's not just about, picking a new CEO. There's a deep theological layer here.
Yeah.
What's the core idea?
At its very heart, it's about the Petrine ministry. That's the line of authority going right back to St. Peter.
The first pope, essentially.
Whom Jesus Christ designated, yeah. It's the foundation of what's called apostolic succession, this unbroken chain. And the belief is really fundamental, that the Holy Spirit actively guides the cardinals in that room.
Guiding them to choose the right person.
To choose the person best suited to lead, over 1 billion Catholics globally at this moment in time.
So it has voting, but it's framed as spiritual discernment, not just politics.
Precisely. And that spiritual side runs through everything they do in there. Intense prayer, reflection, even penitential rites.
Really? Like what?
Well, liturgically, they use things like the Litany of the Saints, and they read specific parts of the Bible, like from the Acts of the Apostles. The part where Matthias is chosen to replace Judas.
Ah, okay. Setting a precedent.
It's all about seeking that divine guidance. It's not just sort of going through the motions.
And you mentioned rules. There must be a very specific playbook for this.
Oh, absolutely. The main document is Pope John Paul II's Apostolic Constitution from 1996, Universi Dominici Gregis. That's the instruction manual, basically.
Has it changed much since 96?
There have been some minor tweaks, yeah, but the core structure remains from that document. It's built on centuries of experience, really.
So what are some of the key rules in that manual, the big ones?
Okay, first, eligibility. Only cardinals under 80 years old when the papacy becomes vacant get to vote.
Right, the age limit.
Second, the location. It all happens inside the Sistine Chapel, and it's completely sealed off, isolated.
Locked with key.
Exactly. Third, the voting threshold. You need a 2/3 majority plus 1 vote to be elected.
2/3 plus 1, that's quite high.
It is. It pushes towards consensus,
Yeah.
though the rules do allow for changes if things get really deadlocked, but that's rare.
And the secrecy, you mentioned that's key.
Paramount. Breaking the oath of secrecy, revealing anything about the votes or the discussions results in automatic excommunication.
Wow. Automatic.
Laudis intentiae. It happens automatically. It just shows how seriously they view this as a sacred process, protected from outside influence. It's about conscience guided by the divine, not by external pressures.
That really does hit home how serious it is. So who are the people actually inside this sealed environment? The voters.
Right. The main players are the cardinal electors, those under 80, probably around 120 of them for this conclave.
And they all come to Rome. Where do they stay?
They do. They'll converge on Rome beforehand. Many will likely stay at the Domus Sanctae Marthae, that guest house inside the Vatican where Pope Francis himself lived, or other Vatican residences.
And what do they wear? Is it all formal robes all the time?
For the big liturgical moments, yes, you'll see the scarlet vestments. But for the day-to-day work inside the conclave, it's simpler, a black cassock with what they call choir dress.
Okay, and are there other people in there besides the cardinals who vote? Support staff?
Yes, but a very limited number, and their contact with the electors is kept minimal to maintain that cloistered secrecy.
Who does that include?
You've got the master of pontifical liturgical celebrations, he handles the ceremonies, notaries to record the official proceedings in the chapel, a sacristan for the liturgical items, and essential staff for things like meals and medical care, all within the secured zone.
Right. Let's talk about that secure zone. Sealing off the Sistine Chapel. How does that actually work? It's such a public place usually.
It's a very deliberate process. After a specific mass, the Missa pro Eligendo Romano Pontifici, the cardinals process into the chapel. Then the doors are literally locked and sealed.
Sealed how?
Symbolically, but also physically. 5 specific Swiss guards each get a unique key. All 5 keys are needed to unlock the main door.
5 keys.
And beyond that, all the other doors, windows, access points are secured. And crucially, all external communication lines are cut. It's a powerful visual, that ceiling.
Sounds like Fort Knox. What other security is there to stop leaks, eavesdropping?
They take it incredibly seriously. The Swiss Guard and the Vatican Gendarmerie control all entry points. They use sophisticated signal jammers, no mobile phones, no Wi-Fi inside.
Jamming signals. Wow.
Yep, prevents electronic eavesdropping. There's also discreet surveillance. And importantly, every single cardinal has to hand over their phone, their tablet, any electronic device before they go in. Completely cut off.
Okay, so everyone's inside, doors locked, phone's gone. What happens next? The opening ceremonies.
Absolutely. It starts with a formal procession inside the chapel, cardinals in 2 lines facing the altar. The dean of the College of Cardinals leads it.
The senior cardinal.
Yes, the dean. He formally declares the papacy vacant and that the deliberations are starting, and then comes the oath.
The oath of secrecy we talked about.
That's the one. Each cardinal elector, one by one, places his hand on the Gospels or a relic and recites this very specific binding oath.
What exactly do they swear to?
They vow never, ever to reveal anything about the voting, the discussions, anything that happens inside. They also pledge to vote according to their conscience, guided only by God. And as we said, the penalty for breaking it is severe.
Excommunication. A heavy burden. Then what? More prayer.
Yes. More prayers follow the oath. Litanies, specific prayers calling on the Holy Spirit, and that reading again from the Acts of the Apostles about choosing Matthias.
Reinforcing that sense of divine selection.
Exactly. It frames the whole task ahead.
Okay, prayed, sworn to secrecy. Now the main event. The voting. How does that actually happen?
It's very structured. Each elector gets a rectangular ballot paper. It has the Latin words "Eligo in summum pontificem" printed on it. I elect as supreme pontiff.
And they just write a name.
They write the name of their chosen candidate, usually in Latin, and they have personal writing instruments to do it. Disguising handwriting is often encouraged.
And casting the vote. Is it like a ballot box?
Pretty much. Each cardinal, in order of seniority, walks up to the altar. He holds up his folded ballot and says aloud, "Voto cardinalis," his surname. I, cardinal surname, cast my vote.
They say it out loud.
They announce who they are casting the vote, yes. Then he places the ballot onto a plate, or paten, and slides it into the urn on the altar. As he does, one of the scrutineers, the vote counters, confirms he's voted by saying, "Adest," meaning he is present.
And that repeats for all 120 or so cardinals.
Exactly, until everyone has voted.
Okay, all the votes are in the urn, then the counting. How is that handled to ensure it's fair?
Meticulously. 3 cardinals are chosen by lot to be scrutineers. First, they count the folded ballots in the urn to make sure the number matches the number of electors.
Basic check. Makes sense.
Then, one scrutineer unfolds each ballot, reads the name written on it aloud, while the other 2 scrutineers independently keep a tally. That's the first count.
Right.
Then there's a second scrutiny, basically double-checking that count, and a third scrutiny to ensure absolute accuracy before the results are officially recorded. It's designed to be transparent, at least among the cardinals, and foolproof.
And they're looking for that magic number.
That 2/3 plus 1 majority. So if there are 120 electors, they need 80 votes for a successful election. The idea behind that specific number is really about achieving a strong consensus, something that feels more like unity and divine will than just squeaking by.
Right. So if they don't get 80 votes on that first try, then
Yeah.
what? That's smoke time, right?
That's smoke time. After each vote, or usually after a pair of morning or afternoon votes, the ballots are gathered up and burned in a special stove temporarily installed in the chapel.
Okay.
And to signal the result to the outside world, they add things to the fire. If no one got the required majority, they add damp straw or a specific chemical cartridge nowadays.
Yeah.
That makes thick, black smoke, fumata nera.
The signal for no pope yet.
Exactly. Everyone in St. Peter's Square sees that and knows they have to wait longer.
And the white smoke, the fumata bianca, what makes that?
When a pope has been successfully elected, they burn the ballots with a different chemical cartridge, one designed to produce clear white smoke.
And that's the moment.
That's the moment. When that white smoke appears, you hear the cheers erupt in the square. They know a new pope has been chosen.
Must be incredible. So white smoke goes up. Then what happens? How do we find out who it is?
Soon after the white smoke, the cardinal protodeacon steps out onto the central balcony of St. Peter's Basilica.
Protodeacon? What's that?
He's the senior cardinal deacon, the one who's been a cardinal in the order of deacons the longest. It's a traditional role. Historically, deacons had certain roles in Rome, and this is one ceremonial honor that remains.
Got it. So he steps out.
And he makes the announcement in Latin. Annuntio vobis gaudium magnum, habemus papam. I announce to you a great joy, We have a pope.
Chills just thinking about it.
Then he reveals the new pope's birth name. His name is a cardinal, and crucially, the new papal name he has chosen for himself.
The choosing of the name. That happens right after the vote.
Yes. Inside the chapel, after accepting the election, the new pope is asked what name he will take. Then the protodeacon announces it to the world. He also invites everyone to pray for the new pope before he gives his first blessing, Urbi et Orbi, to the city and the world.
So the world finds out what's happening back inside the Vatican right after the election?
Yeah.
Any immediate ceremonies?
Well, inside the Sistine Chapel, after the new pope accepts, the cardinals approach him one by one to offer their obedience. And congratulations, it's called the act of homage and obedience. If, and this is rare, the person elected isn't already a bishop, he'd be ordained bishop right then and there.
Okay. And the big public mass?
That comes a few days later. The papal mass of inauguration, that's when he formally begins his public ministry, receives the fisherman's ring, the pallium, which is a woolen stole symbolizing his role as shepherd and other papal insignia. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, they're prepping his new apartment, finalizing his coat of arms.
And diplomats are lining up.
The diplomatic corps accredited to the Holy See, yes, they'll be waiting for their first audience. It's a whirlwind.
It really sounds like it. What about just life inside the conclave during the voting days? What's the routine?
It's very structured and quite austere. They live under strict enclosure, as we said, likely at the Domus Sanctae Marthae. The day revolves around prayer, the liturgy of the hours, and the voting sessions in the Sistine Chapel.
How many votes a day, typically?
Usually 2 ballots in the morning session, 2 in the afternoon, with breaks for meals, rest, private prayer. Meals are communal, simple affairs, keeps distractions low, fosters community.
Is there medical help if needed? What about confession?
Yes, medical staff are on hand within the secure area, but with strict privacy protocols. And there are facilities for confession, a private chapel within the Domus for personal devotion.
And the communication blackout is total. Still no phones.
Absolutely total. All personal electronics are surrendered before entering. If there's truly urgent news from outside, say a family emergency, it gets filtered through the Secretary of the Conclave, who then tells the cardinal discreetly. The integrity of the isolation is paramount.
What if they just get stuck? Days go by, black smoke after black smoke. Any way to break a deadlock?
The rules do foresee that possibility, though it's rare. After a certain number of inconclusive ballots, the current rules mention around 9 or more rounds without a result, the cardinals could vote to change the procedure.
Change it how?
They might decide, for instance, to move to a vote between only the top 2 candidates from the previous ballot, or possibly even lower the requirement from 2/3 plus 1 to a simple majority. But again, this is highly unusual. The push is always towards achieving that broad consensus first.
And if a cardinal gets really sick during the conclave, can they leave?
If a cardinal becomes gravely ill, they might abstain from voting. That's very rare. Necessary medical care is provided, potentially even involving minimal outside help under strict supervision, but the aim is always to be as unobtrusive as possible and maintain the conclave's integrity.
We've talked about internal security. Has external interference ever been a big worry? Governments trying to influence the outcome?
Oh, historically, absolutely. There were times when secular powers heavily influenced or tried to influence papal elections. But the modern rules, the strict isolation protocols we've discussed, are specifically designed to prevent precisely that kind of interference. The current system is pretty robust against external meddling.
Okay, so looking forward to this specific conclave, May 7th, 2025. What makes this one significant, particularly after Pope Francis?
Well, any papal election is huge, obviously, but Francis's pontificate had such a distinct focus, pastoral outreach, social justice, dialogue, shaking things up a bit.
About your different style.
A very different style. So the cardinals will be thinking about that legacy and also about the massive global challenges, climate, war, inequality, secularization. They know the weight of choosing a leader for this moment.
Is there already buzz about potential candidates? What types are people talking about?
Oh, there's always speculation, isn't there? People look at different things. Theological leaning, conservative, progressive, somewhere in between, administrative skill versus pastoral focus. Where are they from? The church is much more global now.
So you hear names floated.
You hear everything. Seasoned Vatican insiders, diplomats, bishops known for their work with the poor, cardinals from Africa, Asia, Latin America. It's a wide open field, really, at least publicly.
Now, what are ordinary Catholics hoping for as this all unfolds?
I think there's a deep hope around the world for a leader who can bring people together, navigate this polarized world we live in, foster some unity, and really articulate a vision of faith that connects with people today across all cultures.
It's interesting how much emphasis is placed on the prayers of the laity, even though they have no direct vote.
It's hugely important in the Catholic understanding. While only the cardinals vote, the whole church is seen as participating through prayer novenas, vigils, spiritual communion. It's all part of that discernment process, asking for the Spirit's guidance together.
This has been fascinating. It really is this incredible mix of ancient ritual and very modern specific rules.
It really is. Every step, from sealing the doors to the smoke going up that chimney, points back to the main goal, trying to discern God's will for who should lead the church next.
So thinking about all that, the tradition, the secrecy, the rules, the spiritual dimension, here's something for you, our listeners, to ponder. What single aspect of this whole conclave process do you think best captures the Catholic Church's idea of leadership and divine guidance here in the 21st century? Something to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.